You know, it's been over half a century since a human being last set foot on the moon. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. We did something that was basically science fiction, and then we just stopped. So let's get into it and figure out what on earth happened.
I mean, it's a question that's just kind of wild when you think about it. We proved we could do it. And not just once. We did it again and again. So why would we just abandon our closest neighbor in space? Seriously, why haven't we been back?
Okay, so the first thing that probably pops into your head is money, right? That it was just way too expensive. And look, that's definitely part of the story, but it is not the whole story. Not even close. The real reasons, well, they're a lot more complicated, and honestly, way more interesting.
So to really get why we stopped, we got to go back to why we even started. And believe it or not, it all boils down to what was basically a massive, super high-tech playground fight. You have to picture it. The Cold War. You've got the USA and the Soviet Union, and they're acting like two kids in a schoolyard, both yelling, "I'm the strongest." But instead of, seeing who could climb the monkey bars faster, they were showing off with rockets. It was the ultimate cosmic scale game of one-upmanship.
And for a while there, the Soviets were absolutely running the show. They launched Sputnik in '57, and that just sent shockwaves through America. Then, in '61, they put the first person in space, Yuri Gagarin. The US was getting seriously embarrassed. So, what happens? President Kennedy steps up and makes this absolutely wild, audacious promise. We are going to put a man on the moon before the decade is over. This wasn't really about scientific discovery, not at its core. This was about winning. And well, in 1969, Apollo 11 made good on that promise.
So, boom, they did it. Flag planted, race won. The ultimate bragging rights were secured. But this is exactly where the story gets weird and takes a really sharp turn.
And here's the thing people forget. It wasn't just that one trip. After Apollo 11, we went back 5 more times. That's a total of 6 successful landings. 12 human beings walked on the surface of the moon. Insane. And yet, just a few years after all that incredible success, it was all gone. Poof! The whole program was just dismantled. The last few missions? Canceled. Those gigantic, magnificent Saturn V rockets, they became museum exhibits. The factory shut down. All that specialized knowledge just started to fade away. It's like America built this incredible capability and then just took it apart, piece by piece.
Which brings us right back to that central mystery. I mean, it makes no sense, does it? You achieve something so monumental, maybe one of the greatest things humanity has ever done, and then you just stop? You just walk away? Why? What happened?
All right, so let's tackle the answer you hear most often. It's the simple one. The one that, on the surface seems to make a lot of sense. And like I said before, it's not totally wrong, it's just incomplete. As soon as that flag was on the moon, the main reason for being there, beating the Soviets, was gone. The political will just evaporated. Suddenly, Congress wasn't so interested anymore, and the public started looking at other things. Going to the moon went from being this epic national quest to, well, just another expensive item on the federal budget.
And when we say expensive, we mean staggering. At its absolute peak, the Apollo program was eating up over 4% of the entire U.S. federal budget. To put that in perspective, in today's money, that would be like giving NASA $200 billion a year. Today, they get around $25 billion. So yeah, the cost was astronomical. But again, money alone doesn't explain why we completely abandoned it.
So if it wasn't just about the cash, what else was going on? Well, once you look past the price tag, you find these deeper reasons, scientific, practical, and social, that made going back to the moon a really, really tough sell.
Okay, reason number 1, diminishing returns. Think about it. From a purely scientific view, the moon is, well, it's a giant dusty rock. There's no air, no water, no life. The first couple of trips brought back a treasure trove of new data, but by the 4th, 5th, 6th landing, you're spending a fortune, and the new, game-changing discoveries are getting harder and harder to find. The scientific bang for the buck just wasn't there anymore.
Reason number 2 is something we can easily forget from our comfy couches: the incredible, heart-stopping risk. Every single mission was a tightrope walk over a cosmic abyss. Thousands of parts all had to work perfectly. There was no plan B. No rescue mission was possible. If something went catastrophically wrong, that was it. The whole world held its breath during Apollo 13, and that was a huge wake-up call. Taking that kind of risk to win a geopolitical race felt one way. Taking it just to grab a few more rocks, that started to feel reckless.
And then there's reason 3. Life back on Earth was getting really complicated. The Vietnam War was a massive drain on resources and the national psyche. At home, you had the civil rights movement, the war on poverty, really urgent issues that needed attention and money. That sense of national unity that powered the race to the moon, it was fracturing. Suddenly worrying about a Soviet flag on the moon seemed a lot less important than the problems right here in our own backyard.
Yeah, and this lyric from a protest song at the time just says it all. Whitey's on the moon, but I can't pay my rent. That really captures the mood. For a lot of people, spending billions of dollars to go to the moon while people were struggling here on Earth just felt wrong. The public's priorities had completely shifted.
So you add all that up, the cost, the risk, the shifting priorities, and that's pretty much why we stopped. But hey, that was 50 years ago. Today, we have more computing power in our phones than they had in all of mission control. So, we're going back, right? What's the plan?
Well, the answer is yes. Technologically, we are more than ready. Our tech today is light years beyond what the Apollo engineers had to work with. The ability to go back is absolutely there. The real change, the fundamental difference, is the motivation. It's the why. That original reason, that intense Cold War pressure, it's just gone.
And this really shows you how the thinking has changed. Back in the Apollo days, the moon was the destination. It was the finish line. The whole point was just to get there. But for today's Artemis program, the moon is more like a base camp. It's a proving ground, a stepping stone. The goal now is to learn how to live and work there so we can make the much bigger leap to Mars. So when you boil it all down, we stopped going to the moon because the race was over. And for 50 years, there just wasn't a new why that was big enough to justify the enormous cost and risk. But now that's changing. The moon has gone from being the ultimate destination to being the first stop on a much longer journey. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? After all this time, what's next?